Hello, everyone. This is Mark with Strucs CPA. A few people joining here, Colleen, Bailey, Andrea, thanks for being here. We're going to wait a few more minutes to get started, just to allow people to get here. We're a few minutes before 1 o'clock Eastern, so we'll wait until then. But if you want, you can drop in the chat where you're from, where you're calling in from. Looks like we have the team from Freelance Latin America here with us, as well as Andrea. Thanks, guys, for being here with us.
Hey, guys. Thank you for joining.
All right, so Randy, you're at the Canadian office right now, correct?
This is our Canadian office. We also have another one in Florida and yeah, in Latin America, where the part of the team is.
So where's the team that we can see right now? Where are they located?
So let them introduce themselves, right, and say where they are from.
Hi, Mark. Nice to
Hello.
meet you. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Well, we're calling right now from Venezuela, from Maracaibo. This is actually our own home base and office. So yeah, we're very excited just to be part of this. And well, I know that you probably already know who Randy is, but he's our CEO, and we're very happy just to be part of this big adventure that is just to trying to try to reach higher and higher through our own networking and everything that is connected to it. So yeah, it is awesome to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, sorry guys, I'm just going to cut you off for 1 second because there's a few people jumping on the call here. This is very informal. We have a meeting. It's not necessarily a webinar arrangement, so you can unmute, you can participate, you can ask questions. We want everyone to kind of get as much from this session as possible. We have some team members here from Freelance Latin America, which is fantastic. So please, Jen is here, Juan, Luis. We have a few more people joining here, Alexa, Gabby. So I cut you off, team in Venezuela. I hope everyone's doing well there. We have 1 more minute and then we'll get going with the presentation. All right. So Randy, again, you're in the Canadian office. That's in Vancouver, correct?
Metro Vancouver. So it's technically in Burnaby, kind of 25 minutes driving from downtown Vancouver, but it's considered Metro Vancouver area.
Fantastic. Awesome. And your office in Florida, where's that located?
In Fort Lauderdale.
Cool.
Yeah, nice place. Nice, lovely beach. A very nice place to be.
Fantastic. Okay, it's 1 o'clock. We'll start in just 1 minute. Hopefully a few more people can join us here. And the team we have a few team members here. Where are most people located? Kind of all over.
We have people from Colombia, Panama. They can introduce themselves and say hi, where they are from.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, good morning.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
I'm Luis from Venezuela, Maracaibo, Venezuela.
Hi, I'm Andrea, and I'm also in Venezuela.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Gabby. I'm Randy's executive assistant, and I'm from Panama.
Awesome. We got Jen from New Jersey, Toms River. Welcome. All right, so let's jump into it. Before we start with the slide deck here, I lived in Argentina for 2 years. So I some admiration and so very excited to be with you guys today. So we'll jump in. So build more, admin less, how virtual assistants can make you money. This is something very important to me as I help contractors and builders build better systems and better teams for their companies. So agenda here, we'll do a quick intro to Strucs and Freelance Latin America, talk about the biggest barriers to scaling your contracting and or building company, focusing on roles and responsibilities, SOPs, systems and KPIs, how to hire for success, and there's some templates and guides at the end. So quick introduction, Freelance Latin America. So this is Randy, the CEO with me today. And his website says it helps companies build dream businesses with trusted remote staff. So Randy, just quickly give us a rundown about you, because I love your story, number one, but then also the business that you're building.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark, for the invitation. I founded this business 8 years ago, as a way to overcome the Venezuelan hyperinflation and economic crisis. And I was technically the first company virtual assistant for a home care agency in New York. And now we are 132 virtual professionals in more than 5 Latin American countries. We have our own offices and infrastructure in South America, and we are helping people significantly improve their quality of life in the region, earning US dollars and helping our clients in North America buy back their time without breaking the bank. And this trusted remote staff part, it's all about the vetting process, making sure that when you're hiring someone with us, they go through a vetting process, work reference checkup, work assessment, criminal background checkup, personality test, DISC assessment, because it's all about the vetting process to make sure that you're hiring the right fit for your company and you personally.
I love that. I love that. We're going to get more into that later on, but thank you. Thank you for. So Strucs is an accounting firm that helps contractors and builders with systemizing their business to make and keep more money. And, you know, the people side of that is so important. And that's why I'm excited to kind of get into the world of VAs and, you know, the process that you guys have in place for adding successful VAs to construction businesses. So first and foremost, let's rip off the Band-Aid. So what's the biggest barrier to scaling a contracting company? You know, and first of all, why most contracting businesses scale? So you can drop your thoughts in the chat. Hi, Colleen from Ohio. I missed you before. So scaling is different than growing. You can grow your top line revenue number and you can see your profitability won't change. Scaling is different in that you grow in an efficient and, you know, profitable way without everything landing on the owner or the small, you know, ownership of the company. When everything goes through the owner, you can't scale. And that's the reason for this workshop webinar today. All right, no comments in the chat. You can't scale because of the lack of skilled talent. I know that's something in the construction industry that a lot of people are dealing with. They can't find the right labor. And, you know, a lot of people pull that excuse out when they're trying to grow their business, scale their business. Cheap customers, so customers that don't want to pay, you know, their prices, so they're dealing with cheap skate customers. That's not, in my opinion, that's not the biggest reason why contractors don't scale, and it's not the volatile material costs that you're dealing with when you're, you know, delivering for your clients with the projects that they have. Most contracting businesses don't scale because the owner remains the key decision maker for everything. Now, many owners start their business doing everything, but then never give up those $15 an hour tasks and miss those $10,000 or even $100,000 opportunities in their business. You have to decide that you want what you want before anything will really change. So, Randy, when you're chatting with a new client or your team is chatting with a new client, what kind of mindset do you identify as being a successful mindset in accepting and working with a VA in their business?
They understand that they can't scale chaos. They need to, you know, simple scales, complex fails. They understand that they need to delegate to elevate, and they cannot do everything themselves. And the bottleneck is on the top for a reason. So if you're the bottleneck of your company and every single decision has to go through you and you're not working through your people, you're not delegating authority, delegating roles, and letting them do what they are doing, what they know what to do as the experts, and you tell them what to do instead, that's the wrong way of things. And the right mindset is just people who understand that they need to delegate in order to scale, that they can't do everything by themselves, that they value more their time, and they know how much their time is worth.
Right. You know, I'm a huge proponent of that, and contracting businesses only grow, make money as fast as the owner evolves. The owner, like you said, is that bottleneck, and the faster that you can undo that, the faster they'll grow. Now, we all start at the bottom in the left-hand corner here. So here's a little chart that I love, focusing on low value, low leverage up to high value, high leverage tasks. And start here. You know, low value, you know, are we designing our own business cards, you know, spending hours doing that? or can we send it off to a Fiverr, contractor to complete for $30? And then, low leverage is, typing out the same email when sending off a quote or an invoice. Just you're getting the leverage from your activities. You should be like when you have a lever set up, you move that fulcrum and you put a little bit of pressure, but there's lots of movement on the other side. You want more leverage in the stuff that you're doing. Now, so we have to move our actions to do high level and high leverage activities. So moving from here to there, and again, high value. So are you going to spend your time building a business card or, tweaking your website? Are you going to networking, or are you going to be networking with ideal customer types? Maybe you're a carpenter, want to do some custom work for a custom home builder, and you're not going to get that $56,000 opportunity by wasting your time building your website or refining, your invoices. You're going to do that by leveraging yourself for high value, high leverage activities. And again, high leverage, creating repeatable systems and processes that anyone can complete. So instead of doing tasks or doing actions, you want to build assets, SOPs, and we're going to get into that in just a second. So moving on, biggest barrier to scaling, continuing. So big question, why don't or can't we stop making the decisions? What kind of excuses do you encounter with clients sometimes, Randy, with their hesitations around hiring a VA?
Yeah, they are usually concerned if the person is going to do the job. Are they going to be actually working? And that's why we want to have them in an office setting where we can, check in on them. And also it's all about the systems that you put in place. If you have right KPIs in place, if you tell them what success looks like, they will know what to hit and they will know what the target is. And then you don't have to micromanage them. You will make sure that they complete their objectives, they reach their goals, and you will be successful that way.
Amazing, yeah. Big excuse that I've heard is like, my employees can't do it as well as I can, or the VA can't do it as well as I can. And that's a lie, because like you said, they have specialized abilities and talents, and they can actually do it better than you. It's just acknowledging that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like if you're the business owner and you're wearing all the hats, the billing hat, the finance hat, the management, the job site, the selling, marketing, everything, and you only have 24 hours a day as everybody else. So if you're wearing multiple hats at the same time and you hire someone to wear only one of those hats full time, of course they're going to do a better job than you, because that's the only job they're doing. They are focused 100% their energy and time on that. And your clients don't have to for you to get home, miss dinner with your family, to finally reply the same email for the 1,000th time, to finally send that invoice. And they can do that for you while you are leveraging your time the best way possible.
Yeah, no, I love that. Other excuses they have is, I'll lose customers. No one can treat my customers as well as I can. I'm faster at doing stuff than my employees, which might be true in some regards. And then some of them, frankly, they don't trust their employees, and that's a whole nother issue. But those are barriers, those are excuses to not scaling. So these fears and limiting beliefs, like we think our beliefs, they are beliefs that we have gathered from certain experiences, or what we've heard other business owners say, they are limiting beliefs. So in order to scale your contracting or building company, you need to address these beliefs, but not with the, just get over it, get over your fears, but you need proven systems and strategies to get that done. And that's why I love, chatting with you, is that you guys have these systems and strategies in place, and you can really pacify and undo these limiting beliefs.
Yeah,
First
for
thing
sure. Yeah, because if you hire someone, you expect them to hit the ground running from day one with no training, no onboarding, no SOP, no explaining what the job is about, you're setting up for failure, right? You need to have these systems in place and the ongoing onboarding experience to make sure that everyone that you hire is set up for success.
I love it. And you said, you start with roles and responsibilities. So first thing, understand what you need done and who is going to do it, and create roles and their responsibilities, and then get lower value, lower leverage work off your plate, right? And so, like, side note, standardization is key. And like you said, you can't throw somebody into chaos. So you'll have to give up some nuanced treatment of certain customers and processes. You know, I've seen some business maybe have a little ADHD, but that's what makes them good business owners, but also a little volatile in the standardization and processes that they set up.
Yeah, for sure. And you need to tell what they own, so you can drive accountability in your company. You need to tell them, these are your roles. You own this. This is the outcome that you're responsible for. And they need to have clarity there. And that's what the job description, a good job description, is about. It's about roles, responsibilities, what they own, ownership, accountability, and outcomes.
I love that. Yeah. So exactly. So systems, predictable outcomes and data. So you want a specific outcome. You need specific inputs. You need standardized tasks to get that done. And then, like you said, to delegate successfully, you need to have them follow a fixed set of steps. Set them up for success. So a little diagram here. So this is you. This is your plate. You do a little bit of administration. You do a little bit of operations, and you got everything else that's on your plate. And it's a mixed bag. You're doing a little bit of everything. You get your VA in place, and you move over your administrative tasks. Now, the key step, like you said, Randy, create a formal role. So like really identify where the role starts and where it ends. Be very clear on that. And then assign the tasks. And then one thing that I love is assign the responsibility. So like you said, assign the authority to do what they need to get done. Because I think a lot of people will push a task, the physical doing, off their plate, but still hold on to the responsibility of that getting done. And what that does is it still takes up mental bandwidth, and it doesn't actually do anything for you for like freeing you to high leverage, high value activities. And once that's all designated, stay in your lane, right? Don't weave back into doing administration. Like, give them the authority, give them the responsibility, and then get out of the way.
Yeah, for sure. And remember, 80% but done by somebody else, 100% freaking awesome to you. So nobody's going to do it exactly like you. You're a unique person. You're a unique individual. But 80% done by somebody else, saving you time, energy, and money is 100% freaking awesome. So what we advise our clients in this stage is put in writing, in black and white, what you hate doing. What is draining your time, your energy, and it's a low leverage, low value activity. Put it in writing. And that's how you can kind of audit your calendar to make sure where you're spending your time. Because what matters to you is not what you say that matters. What matters to you is what your calendar shows and what your bank account tells. So if you check what you have on your calendar, what you're actually doing on your calendar, that's what actually matters to you. So make sure that you do a list of all these low value activities, especially admin tasks that you would like to delegate, and put that in writing. And that will be the first draft of a job description.
Nice. I love that. So we've identified we want to get off our plate. And so we've assigned the responsibilities. And for me, I think responsibilities is expectations. And you alluded to this earlier, Randy, where, let them know what's included and give them ownership. And I think about, my kids they have to walk their dogs. And so the assignment is to walk their dog, but, they come back and I don't know where the leash is, the dog's dirty, maybe there's still poop out on the pathway that they took the dog on. And they didn't realize that there's so many other things that needed to be done with that task. And they say, well, I didn't know that it was my responsibility. So, we assign the task. Maybe the task is sending an invoice, and that's really general. And that's as general as walking the dog. But you need to give more information and let them know the entire responsibility of that task. So, you send the invoice, but you send it within 24 hours of the approved quote. And then you attach the approved quote to the invoice, and then you follow up 2 days later. And then you give it to them. And, I love the saying, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. I think that's a Brene Brown saying. like clarity is absolutely like imperative when you're creating these roles and responsibilities, because it empowers them to work, autonomously and hit their own KPIs.
Yeah, for sure.
So don't worry about adding too much detail about the roles and expectations. Lots of detail is not prescriptive or micromanagement. It's clarity, and it reduces micromanagement overall. Just a little bit of background on me. I've run teams as large as 17 people. I have an accounting firm. I have team members at the moment. Some are offshore, some are onshore, and you have to empower them, and that's achieved by more details, not leaning their shoulder and looking at everything that they're doing. And lastly, it creates a scorecard, so you and the employee know, you and the VA know what is expected and if they are performing well.
Yeah, people are competitive by nature, right? So if you give them a number, they will have an objective metric to hit. And people want to excel. So if you give them a number, an outcome, an expectation, and you tell them how you like things to get done, they will do it.
So you have placed 132 virtual assistants at the moment, correct?
Yeah, counting my 30 people team, it's like 100 plus VAs with our clients.
Wow. Yeah. So you have some data to back up what you're saying, which is, I love that. That's great.
Yeah. And over these 8 years, we've placed more than 400 people. And we've seen it in the clients who last less than a year, or the clients who've been with us for 8 years, 7 years, with their VAs staying with us for 5, 7 years in the same position, the same company, with a higher retention rate than their local staff in North America. And we see the differences in those clients. And it's all about clarity. You need to give them clarity about what they own, what the outcome is, what the expectation is, and what success looks like for their position. Basically, the DOD, definition of done. Show them what's the definition of done for each task. And they are smart people, and that's why the vetting process is so important. You're hiring professionals, college educated, people with work experience. Just go through their training and onboarding process, and then get out of their way and trust that they will get the job done. And then if they make a mistake, make sure you point that out. You evaluate that on a one-to-one coaching, and make sure they understand what the mistake was, so they don't repeat the same mistake again. We're all humans. We're all going to make mistakes. I've made like 3 mistakes since I woke up today. So that's expected. But the idea is that they don't make the same mistake twice. And that's why one-on-one coaching, one-on-one meetings, to make sure that the relationship is aligned on the expectations and it's has full clarity is so important. And that's what we see on the clients that succeed and that have been working with us for years and that have been able to retain their staff for more than 5 years.
I love that. So but still, there's some that are about letting go, right? There's questions like, oh, but how do I know they're doing what I want them to do? And how do I know that they're doing it correctly? And will they ask me if something isn't working correctly? And will I know if they screw up? Right? And so what I love about what you guys do, you focus roles and responsibilities, but then that strategy is SOPs and having this in place and having KPIs. So as the owner, okay, you've pushed off the administrative stuff. You're more focused on marketing and selling, driving revenue. You're still involved in operations a little bit. Maybe you do some financial oversight, things like that, and your VA is supporting you. But then there's part in the middle where you need to support them so they can execute on their job. So we have SOPs and project management here. So second thing, standard operating processes, procedures, SOPs. These are step-by-step instructions to ensure the assistant knows what to do. And for me, key components of a good SOP, and Randy, please chime in if you have a different approach to this. Trigger, how will they know when to do the task? So, is it an email? Is it driven by a date? Is it driven by an event? The tools, what will they need to complete it? So are there training videos? What apps are they going to be using? What are they using to complete the task? Timeline? When do they need to complete this by? And then termination, definition of done, like you said, DOD, how will they know that it's done? and each of those components can't be overlooked, otherwise the SOP will fall flat. Do you guys have a similar approach to
What we like to add, and that's what we've been working on this quarter, is that if you make a super long, 100 pages long SOP, realistically, you're not going to read it and are not going to remember everything, right? So if you want to make sure they understand it, and the idea of an SOP is that it's followed by all. It's not that you just have it sitting on your computer collecting dust or whatever. The idea is that it's being followed and understood by all. So we realize that people understand better things. People understand things and also see it, right? So it's not just they're reading through it. They can watch a Loom video SOP and they can see you executing tasks and they can see how the task is done. So you can record yourself doing the job and then add that to your SOP. So people can just watch the Loom video SOP, see how you did the task step by step, and then see you talking and explaining and giving you context and feedback. And number two, do a high-level SOP, high-level playbook with just checklists. So anyone who looks at it can understand what the task is about in just 5 minutes. Have a high-level overview of the task and what are the checklists of that specific process. If they want more details, more depth, then they just click a hyperlink and they go through the screenshots, they go through the Loom video, they go through the longer detailed SOP if they need more details. But if you give them just a 1-page checklist that works as a playbook, people are going to remember it easier. And they are going to understand it easier, and therefore they're going to follow it easier. And something that we work on this year in our core team is that we want to make sure, because we have internally, my internal team is 30 people big. So to make sure that every department understands what the other departments do. And they are working integrated, not as islands or silos. And how do we do that? How can we ask a team member from one department to understand everyone else's processes? They won't be reading the 50 pages long SOPs for every department, for every position, for every process of every position in the company, right? Especially if it's outside their department. So how do you achieve that with a big team? High-level SOPs, checklists that they can just see the checklist, read it, and have an understanding, an idea of how the process works. They don't need to go through the details because they won't be doing the activity. But what we want them is to understand what the task is about and to be on the same page. That way you create consistency, clarity, unity, and alignment among your team.
Man, there's a masterclass right there. That's fantastic, Randy. Stealing my thunder a little bit. Building your SOP will take time, but it doesn't have to distract from your daily operations. Formal SOP document, like you said, a playbook, and that can be updated as the process changes and the business evolves, right? So they're living documents. We do have an SOP document template at the end that people can download. And then there's also resources that Freelance Latin America will provide as well. Something that I like as a OCD accountant is a strong naming convention, meaning names and numbers that help you stay organized. So for example, with estimating and proposals and invoicing, clump those SOPs together. So when your VA or your office administrator is sending out proposals and invoices, everything's grouped together, because a well-run business is going to have lots of SOPs, and organization is going to be crucial. So recording your SOPs. So you mentioned Loom. Love Loom. I have a huge Loom videos myself, and it's quickly, you put it up on your screen, it records what you do. You can speak and add, descriptions to what you're doing. Scribe is another tool that will actually watch your clicks as you click through certain screens and create a PDF document. Not as good, in my opinion, as Loom, because Loom can be very dynamic as you speak and show what you're doing on the screen. And then Company Cam, I've done a webinar with them. This is more for on-site SOPs. So we are specifically talking about VAs in your office supporting your operations, but operations need SOPs as well. And Company Cam is a great one for that. You can literally have a checklist, walk through holding your phone, completing a site, and then repurposing that and reusing that for training of your team on site. So like you said, Randy, the videos are good, but we want to make sure that we can distill it down to a checklist. So there's a great tool, Notebook LM, which is a free tool from Google, which is AI generated. So you'll throw video in there and you'll create checklists and action items out of those SOP videos. And so on the template that's available at the end of the webinar, you'll have a spot to drop in that URL of that Loom video in that document, which will be kind of the support around completing the SOP, but then you'll include your checklists within the document. And so that information is available on one living document to support that process. Like I said here, have the video instruction easily accessible, but lead with checklists and precise instructions. SOPs alone are not going to eliminate the fear and hesitation that we all have about bringing somebody on board. So we have the management setup of SOPs, but then you need to have a way to organize, delegate, and monitor your team and the tasks that you assign. And that is a PM tool, a project management tool. This is something that I swear by, and you need it because it's what helps people stay accountable, how you release responsibility, how you follow up with them and make sure that they are hitting the KPIs that you want. So we'll talk here for a second. I work with a fair amount of business owners and contractors and builders that embrace a project management tool and use it properly are way more efficient and effective at building a strong team without exception. It doesn't necessarily make them a better tradesman or tradesperson, but it makes their business run more efficiently and effectively. You can add team members in quickly, get them up to speed, and I've seen this multiple times. You need to centralize your communication and have asynchronized communication, meaning you're going to have, some contractors, they have 5-6 projects on the go at any given time. And if you're only communicating via email, it's going to get really messy really fast. But async communication, meaning in your PM tool, you're going to have a chat conversation with everybody that needs to be involved in each of those jobs. And those communications are going to be separate from every other job. So there's discrete, focused communication just on that job. You can get into the chat about that job and get up to speed right away. And what I love is you can invite your VA into the jobs that they need to be involved in. And they can see all the communication with the client, with your vendors, and the VA can be up on all expectations and all the communications on these projects. And they also provide clear scheduling, tasks and accountability, and financial visibility. If you're not working on a PM tool, you need to get on one. So specifically for construction companies, there are some good PM tools, contractors, service and maintenance, you're looking at jobbers, house call pros, things like that. Maybe smaller projects, you're looking at Notify, maybe a job tread. Builders, remodelers, and GCs, general contractors, you're doing smaller to large projects. Job tread would be a good example. If you're in the commercial space, Procore might be a good tool, but that's more for commercial operations. But then there are limitations within those project management tools for delegating for administration and marketing for non-related or non-job related tasks. Just to be frank here, if you don't remember anything else, running your jobs does not replace running your business, right? Those are two distinct things. Your business supports the completion of your jobs, but you also need to remember to run your business. So that's where the VA comes in. That's where you get out of the weeds, them help you to, like you said, what is it? Delegate to elevate, or what was the saying, Randy?
Delegate to elevate.
Yeah. So there are some lightweight out there, easy to use. And this is for, the administration of your business, not administration of your management, but of your business. I like Trello. It's a Kanban board. It's easy to delegate, set up, set timelines, things like that. Asana is another good one. It does take a little bit of setup to get going. Randy, what kind of do you see contractors using? What would you recommend? What's your take on
So
these things?
Notion is a pretty good one. There are a lot of tutorials and videos online. It allows integrations with your website, with your Slack, so you can, integrate them through Zapier, through your group chats, and has email integrations too. But it's a little bit more complicated to set up. But that's one that we've seen with bigger contractors that it works well.
Okay. So with these PM tools, you can track KPIs, so key performance indicators. I love your take on this, Randy. Why use KPIs for your VAs and employees? This question is yours. Why use KPIs?
How do you know if they're being successful in their position? How do you know if they're doing their job if you're not in the same office and you're not seeing them at workstation every single hour of the day? The only way that you can know this if you tell them what success looks like for them, what are your expectations for them, what you want them to do, and just make sure that they completed that and they report to you saying, hey, this is everything that I achieved. And then you do your quarterly business reviews, your quarterly performance reviews, annual performance reviews, extended onboarding, monthly check-ins to make sure that they are hitting your KPIs. And it's all about the expectations. With clear KPIs, you're telling what you expect from them. And if they agree on those KPIs, you're telling them that they feel capable, that they can hit them, that they can be successful for you. So that's why it's a two-way conversation. It's super important to have them. And that's the best way to know if they're being successful in their roles.
Yeah. And you mentioned this before. People want to know if they're doing well, right? And hitting their KPIs is actually a reward in itself. It's a little shot of dopamine, and it's something to motivate them. And like you said, it's great for training and helping out when someone maybe needs more support, but it's also a motivating tool. And I like how you said, you have college educated, successful people working in your company, and they want to achieve things. They want to do things, and they need those metrics to let them know if they're on the right track.
For sure. Yeah.
So assign and follow up. The PM tool does the tracking for you. Yeah. You gave some good examples when you and I chatted earlier, good examples of some KPIs. So address all emails by end of day. This is something that's easily trackable and that can be done. In finance, all labor hours and materials posted for each project. This is something that's near and dear to my heart, to understand the job costing for some of these projects and make sure that everything's posted so we have clarity around the project profitability. Selling activities, every phone call is answered or called back immediately. I like how you said 3 rings is bad, 1 ring is good, letting, and there's tools out there that, thinking of Go High Level, where you can actually record and get feedback on how fast they're being answered and things like that. We know in the construction space, especially in like the painting, landscaping, more home services type businesses, that answering the phone is absolutely paramount now. And there is some acceptance of AI receptionists and whatnot, but it's unique to call, a plumber and actually speak to somebody on the first ring. That is going to be a major value add in the whole relationship with the plumber.
Yeah, for sure. Imagine if you have that one person doing that 8 hours a day. That's their full-time job, making sure that all phone calls are answered within the first ring. How much your company value and performance will rise just by doing that.
Yeah.
And how much money you're leaving on the table because you didn't pick up the phone, because you were on site or you were busy or you didn't have one person in charge owning this activity. And then they just call the following plumber, and they just call the following painter, and they just call the following person who picks up the phone. And then you left money on the table there without even knowing.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people say, if I called someone or, a prospect called, I called them back 2 hours later and they had gone with the exact person that answered the phone or the person directly after the call that I missed. And it's a real thing, right? You're missing opportunities answering the phone. And then marketing activities, on LinkedIn, social channels, your email list, start 5 conversations every day. And this is more for probably the the remodelers or the builders, if you have a strong social, let's say Instagram page, and people are checking out and liking your pictures, get your VA to start 5 conversations every day. Send them a DM, get the conversation going. Because selling a kitchen, and I think Luke is on here. I know Luke. Selling a kitchen is not a one-day decision. It's a multi-month decision. People have been looking at pictures, preparing to remodel a kitchen over a long period of time. And if you get in their DM and have a conversation and keep you top of mind in their mind, the chance of you landing that job is significantly higher.
Yeah, and VAs can help you not just with admin tasks, but with these marketing and selling tasks too. And we have an SOP that explains how to sell by chat, how to initiate a conversation. And you can be very casual. Hey, are you here for the content? Or what problem are you trying to solve? How can I help you? And things like that to trigger and start a conversation with them. And if you have a following and you're just posting for the likes, for the comments, for the hearts, you're not converting that into business. The way that you can convert that into real business, your social media efforts, is by conversing with people, talking to them, reaching out to them. But it's not realistic to do it with everyone every day. So that's why a KPI of 5 conversations as a minimum every single day creates consistency, creates cadence, and creates this rhythm that is doable, is achievable, and it will bring you business. It has worked for us. So just reach out to your following. 5 a day is a good KPI from our experience, and follow our Sell by Chat SOP, where you can just casually start conversations with people so you are top of mind for them, and they know that you are there, and they interact with you and with the community and engage with them. That's how you make money through social media.
Amazing. So we're addressing these comments or these questions, these concerns that we talked about earlier. So how do I know what they're doing? So project management, tasks with schedules and deadlines, lots of clarity around what they need to do, when they need to do it, and how they need to do it. How do I know they're doing it correctly? So strong SOPs, project management tool, let the system manage the work. You don't have to look at the controller the whole time. Will they ask something?
But at the same time, to chime in a little bit on that second point, you're building a relationship with someone. You need to have a structure, and that's something that we call ongoing onboarding. So onboarding is not just the day one and that's it, said and done. I don't talk to you again until next year. No, the idea is that you have one-on-one monthly check-ins. People like to hear feedback. People like to know that they are valued and appreciated and listened to, and they might have suggestions to bring to improve your SOPs, to improve your KPIs, to improve your business, and they want to feel heard and valued. So give them the opportunity to do this on a one-to-one call. It could be 45-minute call, but you can go through their KPIs and how they're doing, if they're hitting their quarterly goals, if they're going to hit their annual goals, and that way you keep a pulse on the person and the goals, and you wait until the year ends to make sure if you made money, if you were profitable, if you achieved your task, if you achieved your goals. No, you do it on a more frequently basis, and that's how you create a relationship with this person, whether it's local or remote. It's very important to create a relationship with the people on your team.
No, I love that. And it also helps answer this next one. Will they ask something isn't working correctly? Like without that relationship, you might have the tools in place, like you might have messaging, chats going on in the PM tool. But if you don't have that relationship, they're not going to ask. Yeah, no, I love that. Another as well, I know if they've screwed up. Well, like you said, everybody makes mistakes. So you will know if they screwed up because the job won't get done. And that's where you need to maybe refine the SOP. Maybe they've found something that doesn't work and you need to reset expectations. I think an easy scapegoat when something doesn't work is to blame the person. I've seen that a lot of times. They complain like, oh, the hire just wasn't right, or the other issues, and they think replacing the person will fix it, but it's actually a process issue. the process is broken, or the process relies on too much of somebody's experience or own personal preference to work. And you have to kind of root that out and pull that out of the process and make it general enough everybody can do it, but clear enough that all the instructions are there and that anybody can do it.
Sure.
So last point here, hiring for success, last step. So we've defined roles, responsibilities, we have SOPs and a system, and those things are the biggest indicator of hiring and retaining success. At least that's in my opinion. Like if you don't have those things, you're the issue. How well you're prepared will determine a large part of the success of the hire.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this before, you can't throw a VA into chaos and expect them to save you or not quit immediately. If someone is skilled and talented, they know they're valuable, and you throw them into an absolute disaster, they're not gonna put up with it. And I've heard all the excuses, oh, they weren't the right fit so many times. And the first question that I come back with is, well, show me your onboarding process and where are your SOPs? Because I'll tell you what the issue is before you provide. So the big question is, so why hiring is so important and why it's worth working with a partner in the hiring and training process? Because you win the championship during the draft. This is a saying that Alex Hormozy kind of coined a little bit, meaning professional athletic teams, football teams, basketball teams, they try so hard to get the best players at draft at the beginning of the year, because they know that players will improve, but only incrementally with all the other players that are improving. Meaning that if you can hire somebody that is heads and shoulders above, everybody else, they're going to do more for your team than any training program can ever do. And so that it's really worth investing up front in the draft, in the hiring process, so they can win the championship for you at the end of the day. So you mentioned this before, you want the best you can get, but to keep the best from them long term, you need the ongoing onboarding. And a few things you mentioned were monthly check-ins, quarterly performance reviews, annual performance reviews. Tell me a little bit about the metrics of when these things are done correctly, how long those relationships stay intact for your clients.
Yeah, you implement this, they've been with us for 5, 6, 7 years. And why? Because people need to feel valued. They need to feel listened to. They need to get feedback on how they're doing. And they need to get objective feedback. No kind of vibe feedback of how you feel that they're doing. No, you need to get objective metrics. And that's why KPIs and measurables and scorecards are so important. So you give them feedback based on objective numbers. And numbers drive healthy competition, objectiveness, they drive performance, and you have these meetings. It's not plug in and play and you forget about them and then you fire them because they didn't achieve your KPIs, but you never had the chance to give them feedback on how they're doing. You never had the chance to with them and see if they were hitting their targets before the quarter was done or before the year was ended. So that's so important to have these meetings, and they don't have to be super long, but it's super important that they are structured, that you follow a structure. And if they did something wrong, don't talk in general terms. Bring this specific behavior that you think wasn't kind of according to what. Tell them how things could have been done differently, and be very specific about the feedback, and be very specific and clear, saying that I won't accept the same mistake again, but you can make new mistakes. So they are not afraid of you. You create a relationship of trust, and that it's okay to make mistakes as long as there is no the same mistake being done twice.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, last point here. We're moving on to templates and guides. So free guides to help with getting ready to hire a VA. So that simple SOP framework that I mentioned before, it's just a Google Doc that you can download with this QR code. And I'll also drop it in the chat here, just 1 second. Hold on here. I think that wasn't the whole. So this is the SOP guide. And then we have a guide for business owners from Freelance Latin America, how to save money and grow your company with remote talent. That is also available. I'm going to drop that in the chat as well here. So those are 2 resources to. Oh, there's a QR code as well, so you can scan it right off the screen if you want, go directly there. And these are to jumpstart the process with getting prepared to hire a remote VA. Now, again, to emphasize, just going out and hiring one is probably not the best idea. You need to have certain things in place to make sure that it's successful and that you don't, retreat back into the idea like, oh, there's no good help out there. You need to be prepared. And Randy, you shared there's an offer here. So working with you, 20% off the first 3 months. Is that correct? And
yeah,
then
that's for your first hire. So what if you're hiring someone part-time, 10 hours a week, or full-time, you get 20% off during 3 months of your first hire. This doesn't apply for the second, third, or following hires. It's just for the first one. So you do kind of the road test with ease and more confidently that these things work, that we can help you set up for success. And so you can start, buying back your time without breaking the bank.
Fantastic. I dropped that link as well in the chat. And we're at the end here. Does anybody have any questions? You can chime in. You don't need to raise your hand or anything. Just unmute and please share. So, Randy, I have a question. How did this start for you? By training, you're a lawyer, correct? And so how did this kind of take off for you? What was the impetus for it?
So in 2017, I was working as a lawyer. Everything was going well, but then hyperinflation took over the Venezuelan economy. And everything that we will bill our clients, it will lose 80% of its value just the following day when they pay us. So imagine prices increasing multiple times in local currencies during the same day. That's hyperinflation, right? When it's prices are increasing so fast that you just can't keep up. And by the time you got paid, that will worth like 80% less of what it was worth when you first issued the invoice. So I was into this situation where earning in local currency in Venezuela was basically worthless, and I needed to find a US dollar income. And I found this opportunity working with a home care agency in New York. They are still with us. They are still one of our clients, and they have people that have been with them for 7, 6, 5 years. And yeah, that's how everything started. At the beginning, I was doing everything myself. So I was doing the interviewing, the recruitment, the selling. We had no social media, no marketing. It was all based on referrals. I was sending the invoices, doing the billing, doing everything, until I realized that that's not the way to scale, that I was just, you can't scale chaos, and you can sustain 14-hour a day work days. You can sustain 80 hours a week work schedules. That's not sustainable. You will burn out if you have family, especially like I right now have 3 kids, 1 kid coming up in January next year. By then I had only 2. But if you keep running with these 80 hours a week work schedules, you will burn out, your wife will divorce you, your kids will hate you, you won't be present in their life, and you don't want that. Like if your business is costing your family and your relationships, it's already too expensive. So you need to make sure that you're investing your time and energy on what matters the most to you. And if your family and relationships are important to you, make sure that you dedicate time there. But how do you do it when you're running you're doing everything in your business? Your business depends on you to run. And I've read somewhere, like if your business depends on you to run the day-to-day operation, you don't have a business, you have a job, and it's the worst job in the world because you're working for a lunatic. So imagine that's the key. It's about delegation. You need to build a team, the team builds the business, and you need to develop the team, and it's always team first because they will take care of your customers. And that's how you grow your business, building a team that runs the company when you're not there. So now I can go hiking with a client like I did, like we hiked the highest mountain in Utah, Kings Mountain, and we were there for 3 days, no cell phone reception, no internet, up in the mountain. And when I came back, I was checking the chat and we onboarded new people, we signed up new clients, new freelancers or VAs got great job opportunities with us, and the company kept growing without me being involved. So that's the kind of business that we all want to write, the ones that don't need you to run. And those are the businesses that are more valuable whenever you want to sell, the ones that don't depend on you to run the day-to-day operation.
Fantastic. Randy, I really appreciate that. Any other questions before we wrap up here? Drop them in the chat or just unmute. Well, Randy, I really appreciate you being here with me today. You know, you and I connected through BNI and was just very old to you based on your enthusiasm, number one, but also your story. And you know, you have, 100 VAs across North America supporting. I think that's fantastic. And your team members are here as well. And that's fantastic. Thank you everyone for being here. So again, thank you very much, Randy. And thanks, Jen, for stopping in. And we'll do a follow-up email with links to all the contacts. And hopefully we can do this again next year.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was such a pleasure to meet you. And that's, we met networking, right? If we didn't have someone to run our companies, we wouldn't have enough time to network and to meet each other and to meet people across Canada, not just in your local city. And thank you so much for my team for joining. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you everyone who also joined the call. Looking forward to connect.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great Thursday.
Bye.